Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Joanne Smedley, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Captain Nick Tate. We warmly welcome the family of Flight Lieutenant Frank Keith Morcombe, whose story will be told shortly. We are honoured to acknowledge Mr. Dominic Wilson, Director General, Security Policy, United Kingdom. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. Please stand and join in the singing of the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is birth by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains and let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Flight Lieutenant Frank Keith Morcombe. Frank Morcombe, known as Keith to his family and friends, was born on the 18th of August 1913 in Ceduna, South Australia, one of 8 children born to William and Alice Morcombe. Frank lived in the nearby family farm at Good until the age of 8, when the family moved to Western Australia. Here he attended the Northam High School and he excelled at tennis and cricket, and then worked as a farm mechanic on his parents' farm at Kuro. On the 20th of February 1936, Frank married Alma Dorothea, and the couple had 2 children, Michael Keith and Alma Swellen. Keith Morcombe enlisted into the Air Force on the 3rd of February 1941 in Perth. After training, he joined No. 2 Squadron in the Northern Territory on the 22nd of July 1942 and flew Lockheed Hudson's light bomber and reconnaissance aircraft. He was clearly popular and talented airman. In a confidential appraisal by his officers, his superiors wrote, "This officer's tenacity and courage have become almost a byword in the squadron. Eager to participate in the most hazardous tasks, he is an inspiration to his flight, an exceptional officer." On the 19th of August 1943, Morcombe was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. The citation for the award stated that his tirelessness and courage and his efficiency as a leader have been a tremendous influence on the other personnel of the squadron. On the 4th of December 1942, Flight Lieutenant Morcombe was the leader of a formation of 3 Hudsons on an offensive patrol in search of enemy shipping along the Wentworth Strait north of Timor. Despite persistent and close attacks by enemy fighters, which commenced at the beginning of the strait, he continued on down past the enemy fighter base at Dili and completed his mission. 1 aircraft was damaged in the hydraulic system, which caused the undercarriage to drop and so retarded its speed. By skillful leadership of the formation and the use of meagre cloud cover, he brought the formation back along the strait and home to its base without further mishap. The courage and devotion to duty displayed in this episode is typical of the fighting qualities of this officer. Flight Lieutenant Morcombe has continuously volunteered to participate in the more dangerous sorties, as indicated by the high proportion of strikes in the sorties in which he has participated. On one occasion, he scored direct hits on a Japanese destroyer, disabling it. In May 1943, Morcombe transferred from No. 2 Squadron to the 1st Operational Training Unit, based in Victoria. In his new role here, he was responsible for training new pilots. On the 5th of October 1943, Morcombe was flying a Mark V Bristol Beaufort aircraft with training pilot Sergeant James Cameron near Sale in Victoria. Whilst landing at East Sale, the plane was caught in a strong crosswind. The pilot had to make a swift turn to avoid a tower, but in the action, the aircraft's left wing struck a steep bank on the ground, causing the aircraft to cartwheel. Morcombe died as a result of the injuries sustained in that accident. The 30-year-old was survived by his grieving wife and young son and daughter. In April 1944, with his father in attendance, Morcombe's grieving wife was presented with his Distinguished Flying Cross insignia by the Lieutenant Governor of Western Australia at Government House in Perth. Morcombe was buried at the Sale War Cemetery in Victoria, where his remains lie today alongside 57 other Australians who lost their lives in the Second World War. His name is listed in the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph today is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flight Lieutenant Frank Keith Morcombe, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.